Here's to whiskey kisses with the peachy taste of sin, an Edinburgh morning with the smell of brewing on the wind. Here's to lighting...
You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout, because it's whiskey time. Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud. I am your host, as ever, Adam Bradshaw, and it is an honour to have you back here on the official Dram Association YouTube channel for another Outturn and the final SMWS Canada Outturn of 2021. And we have a beautiful Outturn, 122 dapper drams and glitzy gifts. The perfect little theme for the end of the year, I think you'll find. And yeah, a nice little Outturn here today as well. Now, of course, this time of year is very busy for everyone, so it's going to be a shorter little video here today. I've already had these whiskies twice before now. We've had both preview tastings at the time of recording, so it's going to be a little bit more condensed. I've already made up my mind kind of on these whiskies as to what my personal thoughts are, but as you all know, whiskey does change every time you have it a little bit. It's analog, it's not digital. So, I'm looking forward to trying them all a third time and giving you my impressions. First off, yes, we only have 6 right now, because there was a bit of a mishap in the warehouse, and the less said about that, the better. But if you are interested in the missing 7th whiskey, then please do check out our friends over at Legacy in Vancouver. Or if you're over in Calgary, you've got Kensington Wine Market. Up in Edmonton, there's Keg and Cork as well. So yes, very sorry that we're missing a whiskey. It's unfortunately beyond our control, but we have 6 fantastic whiskies to share with you still. Also, before I forget, tickets are available right now for the first Outturn of 2022, and they will be on January the 2nd and January the 6th. And today's first whiskey is eminently effervescent, perhaps the perfect thing to ring in the new year with. Bit of a champagne? Maybe this will do the trick. A very classical and fulsome aroma greeted the panel, honey, vanilla, caramel wafers, sugary brandy and licorice to begin, then some jumpers full of mothballs, mown grass, pear juice and nectar, vibrant and vigorous. Reduction brought hints of dried spices from the cupboard, Madagascan vanilla, brown sugar, lemon curd, and school pencil case shavings. The palate opened with a lovely syrupy sweetness, then bags of banana chips, foam banana sweets, donuts, cinnamon buns, pear drops, cloves, and gooseberry jam. Water made things more zesty, citric, and effervescent. Some rye spice, glacé cherry syrup, and fruit salad gunge. So, I had some people asking what fruit salad gunge was at the tasting events. And it turns out what I know to be fruit salad gunge isn't necessarily what the internet knows to be fruit salad gunge. But you can do your own research as to what Google thinks. But what I know to be fruit salad gunge is in where I grew up on the sort of Yorkshire-Derbyshire border, a very popular thing to have for tea time on a Sunday would be tinned fruit salad and white bread with margarine on it. And that's because, you know, you have your big Sunday lunch. You've got your, you know, your roast beef and your Yorkshire puddings and everything. You don't really need much for dinner or tea time. So you'd have this, and you know, you dunk the bread in the syrup, and you get gunge. that's what I called it growing up. I don't know what fruit salad gunge actually is. I remember Googling it and not finding what I consider to be the right answer. And I've already forgotten what the right answer according to the internet is. But yeah, that's what I know it to be. And it's kind of makes sense with this. It is fruity, but it's relatively sweet as well. The particulars on this bottle, it is a Highland whiskey. It is cask 28.51. It is 8 years aged from a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. It was distilled on the 21st of May 2012, an Outturn of 220 bottles with an ABV of 61.5, and is from the spicy and sweet flavour profile. Lovely. Let's have another crack at this one. That is, it might just be because I had a sour beer with dinner, but it reminds me, it's got a little bit of like a lambic-y sort of creek Belgian cherry beer kind of thing on the nose right now, which is very pleasant. Browse over the official notes again, see if anything jumps out particularly at me right now. Wafers, yes, caramel wafers, like the Turnux caramel wafers, one of the best things to ever come out of Scotland that isn't alcoholic, or haggis. Turnux caramel wafers, if you ever see them, they're available sometimes here, bizarrely enough, at London Drugs. Fantastic, sort of. They're not really a biscuit or a cookie at this point. It's basically a candy bar, but they come in like packs of 8. So and they're always in the cookie aisle, which seems, dangerous. They're only designed to have one at a time, but you know, it's very easy to eat 4 or 5 in one sitting. Donuts, yeah, baked, not fried. Controversial, I know, but I like a baked donut. There's a nice tartness on the palate today. One thing I remember is that it was spicier without water and then a little fruitier with water. So I'm going to take to the water jug here. Have a little dash. Yeah. A little bit of tropical fruit in there now. I definitely get the tinned fruit salad aspect of it. It's, yeah, pear, pineapple, those, yeah, glacé cherries, which is probably where the Creek Belgian beer came from. It does still have ever so slightly sort of, yeah, I always want to say balsamic, but it's not vinegary at all. It's kind of like just full flavoured, like a balsamic is. Lovely. So 28 is the distillery code, and that is a wonderful little distillery called Tullibardine. And you've probably heard me say this before, but I always get intrigued by Tullibardine's branding, because on their official bottles they proudly state 1488, which is really nothing to do with the distillery. It's actually the date that a brewery that used to be where the distillery is now started. The distillery as we know it now started in 1949, which is a much less sexy number to put on a bottle, I think. Interestingly, there was a distillery by the name Tullibardine previously. It started in 1798, but it closed in 1799, I believe. So not the greatest of runs there. But yeah, Tullibardine these days is it's the basis of the Highland Queen blend. You get some really decent single malts. I find Tullibardine to be at its best when it's cask strength, and there are some official bottlings. I think the Murray is at cask strength, but things like this is where I think Tullibardine really shines. When it's reduced down too much, it feels a little flat, but when it's at full strength, it's got some really nice body behind it. Yeah, we have this whiskey available right now at strathliquor.com, so long as we haven't sold out. It is available to existing members only because it is $165.13, $165.13. And our second whiskey of the December Outturn is from the Sweet, Fruity and Mellow collection. It is a pleasure from start to finish. The nose neat had plenty of goodness. Battenberg cake, ripe mangoes, satsumas and peaches. Floral orange blossom, honey and vanilla poached quince. The taste did not have to hide either. A wonderful viscosity and mellowness, golden syrup infused with vanilla seeds, as well as deliciously soft and creamy cappuccino Windbeutel. Cream puffs, I believe, from Germany. A drop of water and juicy pears and nectarines appeared, next to a lit tonka bean-scented beeswax candle on a late, warm, summery evening. The texture, again fantastic, like clotted cream, scones, plum jam, and a hint of zingy Jamaica ginger cake. And in the long finish, a hint of sweet tobacco, bottled for the 2021 Spirit of Speyside Festival. So, as you guessed, this is a Speyside. Would be weird to bottle a whiskey not from the Speyside for the Speyside Festival, wouldn't it? It's adorned with a wonderful image of the tonka bean candle that is here in the tasting notes, with a nice little bee buzzing around. Hopefully it doesn't get too close to the flame. Yeah. Wonderful little whiskey, this one. One of my favourites from the Outturn. This is a 17-year aged Speyside from a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. It was distilled on the 11th of September 2003, an Outturn of 215 bottles with an ABV of 53.2, and it is cask number 9.199. Alrighty, let's see if this is. It was a pleasure from the start, and if you take into account I've had it twice, the first time was the start, I guess the second time was a middle, now we are about to judge if it's a pleasure in the finish as well. In the actual finish of, tasting the whiskey, definitely a pleasure. But let's see if third time is just as good as the first and second. Yeah. I don't remember getting this before, but I'm getting a very, very strong, very particular thing on the nose here. I wonder if I can pick out which exact one. Yes. Yes, I can. It is the Pina Colada Jelly Baby. Not Jelly Baby, Jelly Bean, sorry. From that... I can't remember the name of the brand, the North American brand, where they've got like thousands of different flavours. And I remember this one particularly because this was also always a relief for me, because they had a game where they had beans that looked the same as other ones, and sometimes it was a good flavour and sometimes it was bad. So you got like either banana or vomit. And, the vomit wasn't good. Or I believe it was like the Pina Colada one or soap. And soap wasn't bad, but Pina Colada's better. Yeah, this is very, very jelly bean-like on the nose, which is quite playful and delightful, I think. I like that a lot. Never had a cappuccino Windbeutel, but I can imagine a coffee cake creamy puff thing would, yeah, probably. You know what? There is a coffee cakeness on the nose. Although it did say the Windbeutel was on the palate, so chin chin. Yes, definite taste of Windbeutel. Palate today is a little marshmallowy. We had the Tunnux wafers in my tasting notes for the Eminently Effervescent. I would say a different Tunnux. thing on this. Oh, I forgot what they're called now. It's like a marshmallow on a biscuit covered in chocolate. Snowball, I think. I think the snowballs are the ones that's covered in coconut, though. I'm not sure I'm getting that much coconut. Oh yeah, that is very, very nice still. It is... A first fill ex-bourbon barrel for 17 years can be a bit much. They've managed to do this quite well. I don't know, they must have put it in a slightly less active part of the warehouse, perhaps, somewhere that didn't quite get the highs and lows of other areas, or maybe with a less of a breeze, because it definitely didn't take on too much oak flavour, which is often the case for a first fill ex-bourbon barrel for this long. But yeah, this is very, very well put together. So, who is Distillery 9? Well, it is a very interesting distillery. The vast majority of their distillate goes into ex-bourbon casks, just like this one. Almost all of it, but that wasn't always the case. And if you would like to try something from this distillery, which is Glen Grant, if you want to try a Glen Grant in the older style, the style which had since been retired by the official bottlings and for anything that they cask themselves, you can still try it from another independent bottler, which we're fans of here at the Strath, and I'm sure the SMWS are friends with, Gordon MacPhail, who actually buy the spirit from Glen Grant at a young age, I think actually maybe a new make spirit, and put it into their own sherry casks. So you can still get a glimpse of what sherry Glen Grant is like through those guys. And I feel like we've had some sherry Glen Grant in the SMWS as well. But I have to admit, I like Glen Grant in a bourbon cask. I think it shines really nicely. It's got a really good spirit, and it doesn't need to hide behind a strong oak, a strong cask influence. There are some spirits which are really, really strong and harmonise well. This one, I wouldn't say Glen Grant has a particularly strong spirit in my opinion, but it has a really wonderful spirit. It has a spirit where the flavours are good, but they're not necessarily... they're not fighters. They're peacetime spirits. So you don't want to put them up against something super strong. Beautiful. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this whiskey just as much as I did in the Outturn preview tastings. We do have more available to sell, of course. We always keep a percentage of about a third of the bottles for the online release. So people watching this video at home still have a chance of getting the brand new releases. And this is available right now at strathliquor.com/SMWS for $278.17. $278.17. One thing, of course, to note from Glen Grant is they just keep winning awards for their 18-year-old. And this is almost 18, but a single cask strength edition version of it. So if you're having a hard time finding the official bottling 18-year-old, as most are, this would be a fantastic alternative, and honestly, for a lot of the whiskey lovers that I know, probably a better alternative, because it's a cask strength with zero intervention. All right, so our next whiskey today, whiskey number 3 in the December Outturn here at the Strath, is from the Deep, Rich and Dried Fruits lineup, and it is Navy Strength Sherry. Classic aromas of hazelnuts, roasted chestnuts, and raisins created a familiar mix with cinnamon, nutmeg, and bruised apples. Then tobacco and soft leather merged with dried herbs before the palate brought us a rich and spicy sweetness. Flavours took us from almonds, walnuts, and coconut husk to dried orange and burnt toffee in a matchbox. Water accentuated oxidized apple and pear fruit, but now with prunes, dates, and a puff of incense smoke. Oily textures of hamon now wrapped around rum and raisin fudge, while sweet cereals combined with ginger, cloves, and a touch of peppermint on a finish of dry stone fruit and firm tannins. So this is a Navy Strength Sherry. Honestly, it's as close to an actual Navy Strength Sherry as you might get. This is a beautiful first fill Oloroso but 13 years aged whiskey. It is outstanding for that sherried style. It is again a space cider. It is from the 15th of March 2007. One of 590 bottles to come out of this sherry butt. Of course, butts are a good 2.5 times the size of a barrel. It is 56.2% ABV, and it is Society cask number 2.128. Alrighty. So, if you don't believe me about the whole sherried note of this, check out the colour, because that definitely gives it away. Yeah. Nice. Beautiful. I know I didn't spend long on the nose there, but like I said, tried all these before, and I just couldn't wait to get into the palate on this one. Yeah. I like to think this was picked for the Christmas time tasting because of the roasted chestnut note in the tasting notes, and I mean, they are classic Christmas accoutrement. Always reminds me of the Black Creek Pioneer Village in Ontario. If we've got anyone watching the video out in Ontario, go to Black Creek Pioneer Village if you've never been. It's awesome. I love that place. They've got a proper old Gutenberg type press. They make their own beer, handcrafted in the traditional way. And they roast chestnuts at Christmas time. You can go around getting roast chestnuts and singing Christmas carols. It's beautiful. Yeah, I am getting those nice cinnamon nutmeg flavors as well. I don't find it particularly apple-driven. They mention apples and pears a lot in the tasting notes. I personally don't find that, but yeah, a lot of the other flavors I'm really hitting on as well. Coconut husk and dried orange, definitely. It reminds me actually on the nose especially of those dehydrated orange wheels, the orange slices you get as cocktail garnishes. And I say burnt toffee in a matchbox. I'm not sure about the burnt toffee, but there is, I think what they're hinting at with the matchbox is there is that ever so slight note of struck match, which I love. The big bad S word is big and bad if it's not meant to be there, and if it's overwhelming in a small, minuscule amount, like in this whiskey. It's just another interesting note along with all of the others. It doesn't overpower anything. It's not a negative, but there is that little tiny bit of struck match. So if you are particularly turned off, I guess, by that note, then maybe it's not for you. But if, like me, you have accepted it and are actually at the point where you outright look for it and like it being there, then this is lovely. So, this is cask 2.128. What is distillery 2? The second distillery that the SMWS have ever visited. Well, it's been chronicled time and time again that the first one was, of course, Glenfarclas. But it might be slightly less known that the second one they ever visited was another Glen. And it is a Glen that is, though a household name now, used to be called something else. It used to be called, apparently, Upper Drummond. Back when it started in 1774. The Upper Drummond Distillery actually had a sister distillery, a second distillery founded in 1850. I believe it was called Delnabo, which sounds Irish for some reason to me. And the original Upper Drummond Distillery burnt down. Delnabo was closed down to make way for the distillery in its current iteration, which is the second best selling single malt in the world, I believe. I think that's still the stats. That was last time I looked. And it's definitely the best-selling single malt these days in the United States of America. And that is Glenlivet. When they started Glenlivet, they started off in the 1950s, one of the first distilleries to start selling single malt directly from the distillery. And they started off by selling about 700 cases a year, which I'm sure was pretty big back in the day. These days, they sell over 1 million cases a year. And when they say cases, I believe they're talking like standard cases, which would be 12 750ml bottles, the international standard case size. That's 9 litres. That's 9 million litres of single malt whiskey that they sell every year. That's insanity. I can't begin to fathom how much whiskey that is. I always get a laugh when people see the shelves behind me and go, "Oh, you've got a lot of whiskey, don't you?" It's like, oh, that's nothing. Compared to some people's collections that I know, but compared to how much whiskey is made, it's nothing compared to 9 million bottles, liters. Sorry. Alrighty, this Glenlivet is available right now at strathliquor.com for $247.74. Snap it up while you can, $247.74. Alright, the next whiskey, or should I say spirit, because it's not actually a whiskey, is the Fully Loaded Sweet Trolley. Deep, rich and opulent, the very quintessence of a gentleman's club. You settle comfortably into folds of warm leather armchair, which mingle with wafts of cedar wood and tobacco, with creme brulee being served. The palate was subdued, has quiet low tones where barley sugar discusses the baked custard with orange citrus fruit and toasty spice. The conversation fades very slowly as it resonates at length along polished oak corridors of flavour. From the Bacco grape. And this is an Armagnac. And probably the most well-received Armagnac that we've ever had here in the SMWS in Victoria. People absolutely loved this at the Outturn preview tastings. Yeah, one of the more popular bottles, actually. Really cool. So the stats is from the Basse Armagnac region, of course, as it has to be. It's from an Armagnac barrel. It is 21 years aged, and it is a vintage of 1997. An Outturn of 562 bottles with an ABV of 65%, which I have no idea whether that is high or low for an Armagnac. I really don't understand Armagnacs as fully as I'd like to. I'm learning. I'm getting there. And this is A5.3. As much as rum is potentially a more traditional alternative spirit, a malternative at Christmas time, people seem to be really going for Armagnacs these days. It's having a bit of a renaissance in the spirit world. There's a lot of really good vintage Armagnacs around at pretty reasonable prices as well. Ooh, yeah. It's got a lot of flavour behind it. And look at the colour. That is just magnificent. Alrighty. So what am I getting today from this one? I want to say it smells like a brandy, but that is because it is a brandy. If this was a whiskey, I'd say it smells like a brandy. I'm getting some vine-like notes. Like, you know, when you pluck tomatoes fresh off the vine and the vine gives off that sort of vine smell. I don't know how better to describe it. Yeah. Sort of that herbal vine smell. If anyone knows a better way to describe a tomato vine smell than it's viney, please let me know. Baked custard. Yeah, I could definitely get more of a creme brulee. Oh yeah, creme brulee's in the paragraph before it. Yeah, definitely a sort of creme brulee kind of custardy thing. Creme anglaise. What's that? That's a nose. That's a pink grapefruit. Yeah. Or maybe a ruby red grapefruit. Some kind of not yellow grapefruit. This is so full flavored. There is so much happening on the palate of this this Armagnac. The barley sugar is definitely a solid note there. It reminds me of what are they called? The lemon bonbons as well. It's got that sort of sharpness to it. You know, the ones with the sort of the powdered sugar around them? I know when they say fully loaded sweet trolley, they mean desserts, but I'm getting a lot of candy sweets, a lot of sweetness. Right then I just got some rhubarb, fresh rhubarb dunked in Kaylee, which is, again, probably a North English thing. It's not something I've come across since, I think the last time I had Kaylee was at a mock Victorian Christmas fair. It's usually like dyed rainbow colours. I'm pretty sure every colour of Kaylee is actually exactly the same flavour. I think it's just big crystals of sugar. But one of the things you can do with Kaylee is dunk rhubarb in it. And you sort of dunk the rhubarb, you wet the rhubarb in your mouth, you dunk it in the Kaylee and you bite it. Because everyone knows rhubarb is kind of rubbish without sugar. Yeah. And actually, talking of Christmas time things, it's a little bit on the palate. reminiscent of cranberry sauce as well. Lovely, lovely Armagnac. And it is, a 5.3. This is a distillery we have had before here at SMWS Canada. It's one that we actually have an official bottling of in the shelves at the Strath. One of the only Armagnacs that the SMWS has bottled, which I've ever heard of before. This is Chateau de l'Abad, and I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. French is not a strong point in my linguistic skills. Really interesting thing about Chateau l'Abad, not only is the distillery on a 260-acre farm, they actually make their own organic fertilizer from their flock of over 600 sheep. That's a lot of sheep. That's wonderfully Scottish of them. I should keep going back. All right. If this sounds like the right kind of Christmas treat for you, if this is the kind of spirit that would liven up your spirits on a cold Christmas morning, this is 284.26, and again is available right now at strathliquor.com/SMWS. And brace yourselves, because we're about to take a trip. As amazing as the last couple of Outturns have been, I have had a few people being like, this is great, I'm loving the crazy Highland and Speyside peated whiskies, and we had a cool Highland Park, but where's the Islay? Where's the Islay, guys? Well, don't you worry. We have not one, but two special trips to Islay coming up this Outturn, and we start off with our first trip to Islay from the peated collection, Raiders of the Flossed Ark. Ashy, pure, extremely briny, and with a linear and blade-like peatiness. Lots of green pepper, beach pebbles, brutal minerality, and raw seawater. Crushed aspirin and sea buckthorn. Wet sand, Atlantic bluster, diesel-splashed rock pools. All muscle, no nonsense. With water, there's an immediate whiplash of salted butter, chives carbolic wash, umami paste, and black olives in brine. The heat of mustard powder, and the ooze of anchovies in olive oil. The palate brings pungent smokiness, squid ink, carbon paper, blue peat smoke. There's smoked salmon, juniper, lemon juice, and bouillon stock. With reduction comes a thrilling finale of seaweed crackers, hot smoked paprika, chili-infused chocolate, pink sea salt, creel nets, and brimming buckets of tar. Lost in a vast earthen floored warehouse. Bottled for the 2020, not 2021, 2020, over a year ago, Islay Festival. Very cool. Yes, what a fantastic way to return to Islay. This is one of those whiskies where the whiskey asterisk comes well into play. You know the one, the something asterisk, but in a good way. And this is very, very wonderfully bizarre. One note that came to mind for me previously that I'm going to be looking for again today was it was a bit like having an Italian deli sandwich. So there's an Italian import store right around the corner from the Strath on Blanchard Street, which makes absolutely incredible Italian-style sandwiches and European-style sandwiches. I'm thinking something like a muffalata. Actually, very much like a muffalata, where it's got the olives on there as well, and the smoked meats and the cheese. It's like taking one of those and smoking it in a big green egg for several hours and then eating a smoked sandwich. It's fantastic. I wonder if you can do smoked bread. There's a challenge for the bakers out there. Smoked bread. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could still definitely see a smoked muffalata sandwich, but today, more so than Thursday and Sunday, today I am getting much more coastal on this. I'm getting, like, scallops that have been seared on a red-hot pizza stone. I'm getting bacon and shrimp. Bacon, the most maritime of things. Sea bacon. It is weird, though. You know, bacon isn't at all a seafood, but it goes incredibly well with almost every seafood. Yeah. Hot smoked salmon. Maybe even candied salmon. There's a touch of sweetness to it as well. So the particulars on this bottle, because the label doesn't actually give us much. As much as I love these festival bottling labels with the cool artwork and everything, it does leave off a lot of important information. It doesn't really give us much. It gives us a fantastic picture, but you really do have to rely on the books and the websites to get more information. So this is a refill ex-bourbon hogshead. It was aged for 12 years. It was distilled on the 24th of September 2007, an outturn of 284 bottles, an ABV of 58.2, and it is cask 58.32. So 58. I can't read the text apparently. 53. Like, I don't know what 58 is, but it's not what this is. This is definitely a 53 in every way. 53.320. Very, very, very nice indeed. There's not really much I can tell you about this distillery that you haven't heard before. It's the biggest distillery on Islay. It's Kalila, the most dependable of all the peated whiskies, and something that the SMWS obviously really enjoys, because we've had 320 of them now at least, which is quite a lot. That's more than 10 a year, which is quite a lot. Yeah. I guess the big piece of information that we're missing that I should probably reveal to you is the price, so that you can jump onto strathliquor.com/SMWS and pick up the remaining bottles. Because, yes, of course, we do have some. Not only did we keep some set aside, we actually had someone who got a ticket to buy one of these at the preview tasting and then didn't pick it up. So we do actually have a little extra than you might think. We have a few of these available right now for $230.35, which is A, great price, and B, a fantastic price if you enjoy numbers, because it's actually the same digits, just in a different order as the cask number. 53.320 is 230.35. Kind of cool. Maybe it's just me that thinks it's cool, but I think that's really cool. It was completely by accident. I think that is why I think it's cool. If I did that on purpose, it would just be kind of silly, but the fact that it happened naturally, brilliant. Okay. And we head now to the final whiskey of 2021. This is a slice of peat heaven from the heavily peated section. There was smoke. One hell of a lot of smoke. Imagine sitting on a pebble beach near the mouth of the river, overlooking the Paps of Jura on a full moonlit night with a sailing ship anchored in the bay. The wind suddenly changed direction, and a blanket of smoke from the barbecue has engulfed us. The taste was massive and unapologetic. Not sweet, not floral, just peat. Well, maybe a hint of salty rock pools and ashtrays. With water we gazed into the sky, the moonlight illuminating the lighthouse further along the coast, when we noticed a lightning storm rolling in off the sea. This is a fantastic finale to the year. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful whiskey. So it's cask 10.213. It is, again, of course, from Islay. It's from a second fill Oloroso, but it's only 7 years old, which is why it's retained so much of those peat flavours. It is 17th of October 2013, an outturn of 577 bottles, bottled at 60.5 ABV. And yeah, this is a wee beastie. That wasn't a clue, it's not an Ardbeg, but it is young and beastie. I feel like I was using that term to describe young peated whiskies before Ardbeg released that whiskey, and I can't fault them for it. It's a fantastic term for it, but I do feel a little awkward now every time I say it, because I have to be like, oh, no, it's not the Ardbeg. Ooh, that's an interesting nose. That smells a lot different to my memory. Interesting. What is that? That is interesting. What is that? That... That is the smell of catching crabs on a pier in Wales. That is where that is taking me. Oh, I can't remember how old I was. It's barely even a memory. I could probably work it out because I definitely remember it. I was on holiday in Wales, and it was probably even the same day that I went crabbing on the pier with my dad when Princess Diana died. Because I remember wanting to watch the cartoons, and nowhere had cartoons because everyone was talking about Princess Diana, which is fair, but I was definitely at the age where I was a little bit miffed. Oh, yeah. It's like crab fishing. Love it. Cool. Yeah, so I'm definitely getting the saline, salty sea breeze notes, much more so than I was before. It's definitely very, very peated, but for some reason now, knowing what to expect in the terms of peat levels, I'm able to peer through the curtain a little bit and see what lies beyond. All right, let's have a look at the notes again, see what else is happening today. If you haven't guessed the distillery by now, they actually lay it out for you pretty well in the notes. See, a hint: from this distillery you can see the Paps of Jura. This distillery may have something to do with the mouth of a river. It's actually just down the road from the last distillery we had as well. And interestingly, it's a distillery which is very well known for using Oloroso butts, but usually in their unpeated whiskies, which is kind of their normal, regular additions, so they're unpeated ones. They're kind of known mostly for unpeated sherry cask whiskey, but also these days as well for bourbon cask heavily peated whiskies. So this is really interesting, having a heavily peated whiskey that was in a sherry cask. It kind of feels like a hybrid between the two most common official bottling forms of this distillery. And if you haven't guessed it yet, it's Bunnahabhain. Which I definitely did the wonderfully embarrassing thing of saying, it's Christmas time. Sometimes you have those office parties, and especially in the UK, those office parties, and even like weddings and things, there's one song that always seems to play. And for some reason, I've got it in my head that Bunnahabhain fits perfectly instead of the word Macarena. So you can, hey, Bunnahabhain, 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 hey, Bunnahabhain, Bunnahabhain, Bunnahabhain. I think that was the right move. Anyway, weirdly satisfying to sing the Macarena with the word Bunnahabhain. People will look at you as if you've gone mad, and quite rightly so, but I advise trying it, especially if no one's watching. Lovely, yeah. Sherry cask young Bunna to finish off the year. What a treat. And if you feel like treating yourself to this bottle, there are several bottles available right now at strathliquor.com for $206 even. $206. Yeah, pick it up right now at strathliquor.com. It has been a fantastic year for the SMWS. We've seen countless amazing bottles. We've celebrated 10 years together as a club here in Canada. I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to all members who have taken part in this year's tastings and releases. Of course, a huge thank you to all of our partners over in Keg & Cork, Kensington Wine Market and Legacy. And the biggest thank you of all to Kelly and Rob Carpenter, whose dedication and hard work has meant that even with just quite ridiculous shipping backlogs and all kinds of delays and things going wrong across the world, has somehow managed to pull off getting us new whiskies every single month on time. And that is nothing short of a miracle. So thank you very much for all of your hard work. I look forward to seeing a lot of you, hopefully maybe even all of you, at the next Outturn. The preview tastings, of course, the tickets are on sale right now on the 2nd and 6th of January. We are looking to try and make the preview tastings full size again. Right now they're still half size, half capacity to leave extra room between the tables. But as things do return to somewhat normality after the outbreak, we will be going back to full size 50 people tastings at some point in the next few months. But also, of course, I should mention the Whiskey Festival is right around the corner. And yeah, I'm putting on a pretty spectacular SMWS tasting, as well as another tasting of Strath exclusive bottlings as well. So I'll hopefully see some of you there. I look forward to it. If I don't see you in the meantime, have a fantastic, restful and peaceful holiday. Enjoy your New Year celebrations, and I'll see you in January. Slán Sivar, take care.
The back of the winter is broken, and light lingers long by the door, and the seeds of the summer have spoken in gowans that bloom on the shore. By night and day we'll sport and we'll play and delight as the dawn dances over the bay. Sleep blows the breath of the morning away, and we follow the heron home. In darkness we cradled our sorrow and stoked all our fires with fear. Now these bones that lie empty and hollow are ready for gladness to cheer. By night and day we'll sport and we'll play and delight as the dawn dances over the bay. Sleep blows the breath of the morning away, and we follow the heron home. So long may you sing of the salmon and the snow-scented sounds of your home, while the north wind delivers its sermon of ice and salt water and stone. By night and day we'll sport and we'll play and delight as the dawn dances over the bay. Sleep